Greetings. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the Core New Core, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. And of course, that's within one point of view out of thousands. Okay? And I only have one title today, and it's The Ultimate Pilates Experience. So if that's the title, and the title is The Ultimate Pilates, not experience, exercise. Gotta say it right. What to you would be the ultimate Pilates exercise? Well, for one thing, it would definitely have to be controlled, right? Because control is a key determination of the movement that we're talking about, at least that I'm talking about. And in looking for it, what would be the ultimate exercise? And then whole body would come right in there next, probably, because for me, Joe writes, contrology develops the body uniformly. And so for it to be an ultimate Pilates exercise, if you can isolate it to just one exercise rather than the character of movements within the whole pattern. But be that as it may, alignment was my other topic or criteria of evaluation for what might be the ideal Pilates exercise. And yet, my title is The Ultimate, so I think I would fall into the trap of having to say that within the MMP point of view, the ultimate would be the ideal, but not necessarily, but recognize that there's a whole spectrum of what the ultimate might be in other people's points of view. I think we all struggle to construct our own that works for us, that gives us the most satisfaction for what we put into it. So, before I give you my take on the ultimate Pilates exercise, I was teaching at home in my home studio. I had an appointment to teach someone in my studio, the living room of my condominium, and it was a teacher from somewhere very elite and rich and historied, someone that came from an aristocratic background all by itself, the area and the location, and then the Pilates that would come from that also. Anyway, the student showed up and we signed releases and began the set, and not having any other sense of where to start, I like a person on the Cadillac holding on to the roll down bar, so their arms are supported in springs, they're seated, they're in control, their feet are in contact with the vertical bars that frame the caddy, knees are soft and all of that jazz, but the whole point being that it's a great place as a beginning involvement of movement to see where you go from there. And this particular student rolled down like he was butter, meaning the articulation of the exercise of rolling down and then rolling back up was shockingly flawless, and immediately made me wonder, what do I have to teach a person that can move like that? See? So what I did was, hey, that's very good. Now step over here to the side so that he could look at the performance, the movement that I was about to demonstrate with perspective. And I hate to demonstrate. It wastes time. It creates in your student imagery in their mind about what it ought to look like, because that's the way it looks like for you, instead of discovering how it looks from within. Anyway, I jumped right to the end exercise. To me, the ultimate Pilates exercise. And that's just to me, maybe not to you. Everybody has their own. But I want you to know why I would think that this is a good candidate for the ultimate Pilates exercise. So I came up onto the Cadillac and grabbed the bars and did an inversion. I went upside down and just stayed in alignment in my body long enough to make the point that I was in no rush to come out of it, right? The alignment. And it wasn't a big point, it wasn't a drawn out point, it was just come here and do this. And the student's eyes got big, and not at me, but I was coming out of it, and I just came out of it and said, now, do that. Now, for all of those who may be shocked at where I would go to such an extreme challenge of control, don't we all, as instructors, take that risk inherently when we give any instruction, when we go anywhere, right? And then we live and die by, and our students live and die by, or suffer injury from, the quality of our judgment in that circumstance. Okay? So, we had signed releases, I have insurance, he owned his own studio, and regardless of all of that, stuff that he could have, that you can say about your situation coming into Pilates, right? It's not until, for me, I witnessed the roll down, it's like, whoa, where do I go next? Other than, beyond what they're already familiar with, in order to engage the, listening to hopefully take any student from wherever they're coming from more deeply into their control over their own movement, right? So I jumped to what I consider to be the last exercise, and in that sense maybe the ultimate exercise, because to be able to go into an inversion upside down and hold that line, either you can or you cannot do that. And so, for as good of a mover as I witnessed in front of me in just the first exercise, and knew in my knowing, because we talked, that he knew a lot about the Pilates method, I took him to where he would listen and have to sense his alignment to accomplish what I think is a very exquisite expression of the opposite of where you end up in the Pilates method is from lying on your back to standing. Now, if the standing upright is indeed aligned, then you ought to be able to hold or be in the same alignment upside down. Right? And in many ways, refining how you engage yourself upside down gives you confidence in what you're doing when you engage yourself upside right, because you've used gravity inverted to find deeper connections, I think, between your endpoints of tension, right? And so, like within the first opening, after the second exercise was inversions. And for me, because I was close enough to break the fall or to intervene or to be safe, but I also had a view through mirror that allowed me to see something, and that was that his shoulders, in being inverted, were rolled forward. And he had some control over it, but his shoulders were not in a position as an instructor that I felt I had something to work with. So movement is revealing. Movement is revealing. And because I saw that his shoulders were rolled forward in the alignment that he had, I knew, because I know how the shoulders really work dynamically, at least in my point of view, that the whole shoulder needed to come into a better posture. And that in so doing, he would be more at ease in his position. And so for the Pilates instructor, the question is, well, is the body too stiff and cannot find that position? And is all that is needed is an introduction to the type of engagement you're looking for? Or is it a matter of being too stiff and not flexible enough on one side and not strong enough on the other to open up into dynamic rotational tension at the shoulders to tie into the ears, the hips, the knees, the ankles, and the metatarsals? Right? So much of social media is acrobatics on the Cadillac without ever demonstrating an ability to be still in alignment, inversions. Right? Can you hold a line inverted? And so, if you're listening to this, and to take it as an opinion from me that it's a distinctive capability to be inverted and to hold the line, and not to be doing acrobatics where you're just moving through sinuous effort. All that sinuous effort, as controlled and as sinuous as it is, to me comes after the establishment of, sensationally, length, alignment. And so the session was off and running and I had the beginning of a string and exercises to pick that explored shoulder capability and allowed for interaction in different, to feel a sensation of difference and being an instructor. So tell your story, which I just did, meeting your student at their level. In terms of progressive patterns of movement and relying on my understanding of Pilates having that kind of structure to it, I was lucky enough to be in a studio when a person traveling through town showed up to find out what Pilates was all about. This was a long time ago. And they were a Russian Olympic decathlon athlete. Decathlon, 10 activities, right? And I picked the hardest flexion exercise I could think of, which was knee stretches on the reformer with probably one spring just to have the carriage come back or let that, but it's something like that. Flexion, strong, demanding, whole body, right? And then extension. And then you may laugh and you may say, well, that's way too extreme, and nobody that knew anything about Pilates would ever teach. It's up to you to teach the student that's in front of you, and in giving the student exercises that could be as challenging as they could challenge it. There you go. They could take it. They could go as deep as they wanted into the effort, and then, like everybody else, has to come out of it, and then to go from a flexion to an extension to a side bending to a rotating. Right? You lay in or you resonate with the fundamental pattern of movement in Joe's choreography. And anything you alter either further resonates with that or gets more dissonant with that. Is that the right word? Dissonant? Like less resonant? And so as an instructor, you carry insurance, and when in doubt, you leave it out. But when you skate as an instructor, you skate on a fragile bubble, right? And you're there with a student in that fragile bubble, but to get to I think as you have to understand that as an instructor, from the MMP point of view, you're aiming to coordinate being, thinking, and observing. And that to whatever extent there is a coordination between those three capacities, no matter what your individual capacity is in any one individually, what matters is that you have to make the coordination. You're aiming to make the coordination every time you dive into concentrating on the purpose of the exercise. Joe's words, close anyway. So movement is revealing, is where I'm trying to sum up on this. Movement is revealing. And so the Pilates instructor, and so the beginning movement of the roll down on the caddy was revealing. And it took me to the heart of the issue is, can you hold your alignment inverted? See what I'm saying? And by reaching for the end of the line, movement is revealing, and by seeing how the student held themselves in space, compared to what you're looking for ideally, which would mean one thing, alignment, right? Because in the alignment then, there's what? There's stability. There's less effort because you weigh less. So the very reason that you engage in core new tension in space at all, to be aligned, to mitigate the load of your body in space, the end point is when you're inverted. The end point, or the last exercise, it's like, okay, you can do the mat, great, and just to be sure, if you have the grip in your hands, and then make it part of your signature demonstration that you can do that. And then my last note is then, my summary statement is that embodiment is the ultimate authority. And why is that true? Because for one thing, not the only thing, not the main thing, thinking can never eclipse the embodiment of the experience. And it's as simple as, in one word, Pilates is exercise, in 2 words, it's corrective exercise, and it's that sensational loop that the individual has in the effort of the movement. That is something you demonstrate or you don't. You have or you don't. Oh, and that's right where the end of my comment was. If you can do it, demonstrate. And if not, why not? I mean, if it's a grip thing, maybe use one of those shoulder stand thingies to take it out of the grip. But at least know how to place ears to metatarsals on a line. And actually better, ears to ankles. Do an inversion ears to ankles that can last forever. And once you can do ears to ankles, let yourself expand into metatarsals. Whether you're doing this from a hanging grip or from shoulders. Okay? And all of that, do with a professional, and it's not meant to be literal advice on how to do it, but commentary as an instructor about what you're reaching for when you're in the right environment. Dave. And demonstrate, like I have over time, not recently, but your own movement, both for your own edification about what it looks like from the outside in, and as illumination for anybody that wasn't inside it at the time it was happening, to see what it looked like from the outside. Because life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Add 2 and 2 after you evaluate points of view. Geist.